Welcome to Satsang. So beautiful to be together. We'll start with a question that came in advance and then open it up to any questions that anyone here has or that any of our family joining us online may have. After reading your book, I have some questions about deep and honest, fearless inquiries from chapter 25. What makes a deep and honest inquiry Dharmic? What is Dharma? And how do I witness the short fuse of my anger before it blows? So, in my memoir, I speak a lot about not just the experiences that I've had, that I've been gifted with, but the lessons that I learned along the way, the practices. And one of those practices is inquiry, self-inquiry. And I guess, I didn't remember the exact words I had used in my book, but I guess the words were deep and honest, fearless, Dharmic inquiry. So deep, honest, fearless, and Dharmic. What I mean by this is, it's really easy to move through the world as a victim. A victim either in a really big way, like this thing happened to me, this person harmed me, abused me, betrayed me, cheated me, or the universe harmed me. But it's much more difficult to actually realize what powerful co-creators of our own lives we are. And I don't mean that to mean that we have somehow created the difficult situations of what others did. I don't mean it in that way. But I mean that our circumstances today, how I'm moving through the world with anxiety, with depression, with loneliness, with frustration, with longing, with confusion, with aimlessness, or with peace, with love, with joy, with gratitude. I'm a co-creator of that. That which has happened to me is not the determinant of my world. But most of us live like it is, like somehow that which happened to us, or that which other people are doing around us, is that which is determining how we're living. I'm angry because you did this. Or I'm miserable because you did that. Right? It's the old, God, I was having such a great day, and then you came home. Or I was in such a good mood, and then you called. So we've got this habit of deferring our power onto others. And so what I mean by this deep and honest inquiry, fearless inquiry is, what are my other alternatives? What role am I playing here? Yeah, I know what's happened. I know that so-and-so lied. I know that so-and-so cheated. I know that so-and-so tweeted something obnoxious about me. I know that this happened and that happened. From the really traumatic to the superficial and the whole spectrum. But in my present moment misery, what's my role? One of my favorite quotes is, if you are miserable in a room alone, you can be pretty sure you are the cause. And I love that because how many of us have sulked in a room by ourselves, convinced that it's someone else's fault. But I love that because when you think about it, of course, it's true. Here I am alone in a room. Who's keeping me from being happy? Who's keeping me from being peaceful? No one's doing anything to me. No one's pulling my strings. I'm alone in the room. And so that's what I mean by that inquiry is here I am alone in a room, miserable. Why? And it's not about blaming. We blame ourselves enough. The last thing we need is to blame ourselves more. It's not about making yourself feel bad. It's not about yet another way to say, I am not good enough. See, I can't even do this happiness thing. It's not that. It's simple inquiry. But honest inquiry. What's my role here? Do I have a choice? Here's what happened in the world today. That's piece one. Here's how I am feeling inside of me and how I am reacting. That's piece two. Is there only one road from piece one to piece two? Only one possibility? Or might there be an alternative? For example, I used to be really stressed, and I found myself kind of on edge a lot of the time, where no matter what happened in the world, that was for me a really good excuse for why I was stressed. If you said to me, how are you? I would have said, oh my God, I'm so stressed because. And the because changed minute to minute, moment to moment. It didn't matter. But once I realized that actually I had a choice, then everything changed. You take a very simple situation. You say, okay, I'm driving down the road. Some guy cuts me off in such a way that if I had not slammed on my brakes, basically he would have killed me. Now that's something that stresses us out, but it also makes most of us angry. We want to yell at the other guy. We want to flip him off, swear at him out the window. Or we swear about him to the person next to us in the car. Now, piece one is simply, man cut me off. He was driving too fast. Driving recklessly, cut me off. Piece two is, my blood sugar is up, my pulse is up, my blood pressure is up, my face is red, I'm furious. It's going to take me, till tomorrow and a lot of chemical assistance to calm down. But is piece two the only possible outcome of piece one? And so I started wondering about alternatives. And for example, let's say somebody cuts you off and you tell yourself a story about it. I love storytelling. And so you say, this guy, 2 minutes before he cut me off, got a phone call from the local hospital that his son has just been in an accident. And if he wants to see his son alive again, he will get to the hospital in less than 5 minutes, because his son has about 5 minutes to live. Now you see how the felt sense experience of that moment changes? How suddenly, guess what? It's not about me. Guess what? The man was not insensitive to me, trying to harm me. The poor guy was just trying to see his son alive. And suddenly, instead of wanting to cuss him out, you want to clear the freeway for him. You want to travel behind him to the hospital. Be there with him. And so when I'm talking about this deep inquiry, it's just that. It's the simple question. What's my role in how I'm feeling in the world I'm living in, my experience of the world? And number 2, is there an alternative? And that inquiry is what I refer to as that deep, fearless inquiry, because it's hard to look at situations and say, yeah, I could have done that differently, but I didn't. Yeah, I could be doing this moment differently, but I'm not. I don't actually have to be yelling at you. I don't actually have to be sulking, but I am. That's a difficult place to really acknowledge. So it's got to be fearless. And the Dharmic component, because the second part of the question was, what is Dharma? So Dharma has been translated in so many ways. For the sake of this purpose, we'll translate Dharma as the right path. There's a general universal right path. Honesty, compassion, generosity, truthfulness. This is universal Dharma. But then there's a personal Dharma, the path we are meant to walk. But Dharma is always about fulfilling your role to the very best of your ability, whatever role that may be. We go through different roles in life. In Indian society, they talk about 4 ashrams of life, each of which is a dharma. So brahmacharya is the first phase for students. Grahast ashram, or grahast dharma, is your householder phase. That's when you marry and you have a job. You acquire things. You build things. Then there's vanprast, which is after the kids are grown and you're retired and you're sort of pulling away from things of the world. And then sannyas, a full withdrawal of that engagement in the world. But there are 4 different dharmas that we go through at different phases of life. But we also each have different dharmas in every moment of our life. The different critical roles that we play in different relationships. A dharma is a child to our parents. The dharma is a parent to our child. As a husband or wife to a husband or wife. But then we also have our individual dharma that's separate from our relationships, separate from our phase of life, that's really the who are you and why are you here question. And so that inquiry has to include that question. For me, when I came to India 26 years ago in the midst of getting a PhD in psychology, I was an academic. I wasn't a spiritual person. I was an American student, a good student. Not someone who you would have expected to suddenly join an ashram and become a monastic renunciant. But the more that I looked inward, fearlessly, I realized that that was exactly my Dharma. As crazy as it seemed at the time to everyone who knew me, as unexpected as it was, that was my Dharma. And so that's an inquiry that all of us should do. And the truth is, you don't have to tell anybody. A lot of us get really embarrassed to inquire, because the moment we come face to face with ourselves and our egos and our ignorances and our false identifications and desires and fears and all of that, we feel kind of embarrassed inside. But just remember, you don't have to tell anyone. This is just you. Nothing to be embarrassed about. We're here in our human package. But if you're not honest with yourself, you're depriving yourself of the whole reason you're here. So even if you're never honest with anybody else, at least be honest with yourself. You don't gain anything from lying to yourself. So start that practice of inquiry. That's what the chapter meant. And the last part of the question was, how do I witness the short fuse of my anger before it blows? Yeah, anybody else been there? Through practice. Do not expect that suddenly you are going to channel the ability to do that when you are furious if you've never practiced it before. In the same way, if you have no idea how to swim, it's very unlikely you're going to learn when you're on a boat that's capsized in the middle of the ocean in a storm. You've got to learn beforehand. You've got to have a skill ready for those moments of life. And this is why we meditate. It's why we develop mindfulness, awareness. Why we engage ourselves in practices of expanding our consciousness. Because then we can be aware. Then rather than suddenly becoming aware as I'm, hitting somebody or punching my hand through a wall or on my 5th of the 6-pack or whatever it may be, rather than suddenly becoming conscious in that moment, I'm able to see it happen. I'm able to notice the trigger. I start to feel it in myself, just ever so slightly. We all know that feeling. Your insides feel like they're boiling. And the heat's just getting hotter and hotter. And your vision starts to become really narrow. We know what that feels like. Develop a practice in which you see how far in advance can you recognize it, right? It's like if you've ever stood on the ocean looking for whales or looking for ships or looking to recognize something from really, really far away. When I was in Iceland in August, we went out whale watching. And it's amazing because you stand on the deck of the boat knowing that you should be seeing whales, hoping to see whales. Every tiny little shadow, black spot in the distance, you think, oh, that's a whale. And then you realize it's not. But that focus onto the horizon, where you're not waiting for it to come up right in front of you and blow. You're trying to see it from as far away as you can. And the guides on the boat said, don't move your eyes like this. They said, just loosely focus them on the horizon. It was actually a very interesting technique because it's very similar to open-eyed meditation, where you're just ever so gently allowing the vision to be there and to be expansive. And with that vision focused all the way out as far on the horizon as you can, you've got the best chance of seeing the whale. And I was thinking as the guide was saying this, that that's exactly how I practice trying to see anger. Of just staying as mindful as you can all the time, such that the moment that trigger comes, that spark comes, you're able to see it. Oh, yeah, look, it's building. Oh, look. And then long before your blood pressure's through the roof, long before your heart is racing and your palms are sweaty and you've got the, exact thing you're going to say to this person to show them, long before that, you're able just to look at it and say, wow, that's so interesting. That made me angry. Huh. So interesting. Is there an alternative? And when you can see it from that far out, there's always an alternative. But you've got to practice in advance. So develop a practice of meditation. Develop a practice of mindfulness, where you're simply being aware. We'll end satsang tonight with a brief meditation. But bring this into your daily practice. Just be aware, be mindful. While you're eating, while you're drinking, while you're walking, while you're breathing. And if you can bring that mindfulness into your life, then you'll notice when the emotions start to build, whether it's anger, fear, greed, lust, jealousy, whatever it may be, you're able to see it at a distance that's far enough away before it's actually wrapped itself around you. And that's what our whole spiritual practice gives us. It's not that we never have emotions. It's that we're able to see them from such a far distance that we're not slaves of them. Questions here? Yes. There and then here.
Thank you for allowing us to join the session here. I was fortunate enough to read your book, and it inspired me to think about it and deep thinking. One of my questions, and I had many questions after reading the books, and you addressed the question, and probably my question would be on a different subject.
संदीप भैया, उनका माइक थोड़ा सा ऐसे दूर करे ताकि ठीक से सुन सकेंगे.
My question would be basically on the same subject. I mean, same question but different subject. I read through, and there are a few places where you address the Hindu religion versus the other religion, and you have made few comments. Today in the speech, Swamiji said a sentence which touched me. He said, "Worship your religion and respect all." I have come across in my life many times people that may not agree with what my concept and what Swamiji said, because I do believe that we can build a better world with the Swamiji's sentence. Now, how do I practice and how do I even discuss these things with the people that may not agree with me? And the second question, do I need to do that? Because it's an emotional and difficult question for me to handle and talk to the people that may disagree with me. So I would like to inquire on that and get a little bit more light on it.
Sure, beautiful. So, this evening on the Ghat in the Aarti, Pujya Swamiji was speaking about oneness and togetherness and the beauty of the teachings from our scriptures that could be pretty much summed up in the line, respect, love your own, worship your own, but respect all. Worship the divine however you worship. Whatever path, whatever religion, whatever form, whatever name, or no form. Doesn't matter. Worship in your own way, whatever that may be. But respect other people's ways. And so he's asking, how do I do that? And especially, how do I do that with people who don't respect my way? And is that even necessary? Do we even need to have that conversation? The idea of worship your own but respect all could be extended into almost every area of our lives. If you substituted the word worship for love or enjoy or live by your own, but respect all, then it could be a teaching about not just your religion. It could be a teaching about how you feel about your own mother or father, right? So everybody loves their mom or their dad, but we respect other people's moms and dads. Everybody lives by their own sexual orientation, but we should respect others. People have their own gender identity. We respect others. People have their own path that they choose in life. Their Dharma, you could say, that they walk. But we respect all. So, the best way to do that really is, interestingly, the more comfortable you feel with your choices, the more open you tend to be to other people's choices. You know, they always say the ex-smokers are the ones who are the most ardent and passionate and even obnoxious to those who are still smoking. That if you've never smoked, you tend not to be that judgmental of those who do. You may not want to be near it. You may say, you know, don't smoke in my house. But you're not going to necessarily be that judgmental. But those who are ex-smokers tend to be the ones who are the most judgmental of those who still smoke. So, meaning my own now not smoking is something I'm not yet so fully comfortable in. And in order to feel comfortable, I need to point my finger at others. in order to feel comfortable about my choice, I judge other people. So one of the most powerful ways to actually stop judging others and to start respecting them is to actually feel really deeply comfortable in yourself. The more comfortable we are in ourselves, the more we create the space for other people to be comfortable in themselves. The more peaceful and happy and whole I feel, the more of a container I create to bring other people peace and joy, comfort. So that's the first piece. The second piece is an awareness that, especially when you're talking about religion, that really, they're all just different paths to the same place. We're all going to the same place. Just in different ways, different names, different forms. You know, one of the ways that I like to think about it, because even within Hinduism, there's so many different ways to worship God. There's so many different names, forms, paths. And there's even intra-religion conflict between different paths. And the way that I like to think about it is you think, okay, I love Karen, who's sitting right here. And I love her so much. And I tend to be someone who's an eyes person. And so when I write about her, maybe I write poems, maybe I write songs, maybe I'm a sculptor, I'm going to write poems and songs about how beautiful her eyes are and how I can see my soul in her eyes, and I'm going to paint pictures of her eyes. But Preeti sitting next to her also loves her. And maybe Preeti likes to have a hand to hold on her journey through life. And so she's going to write poems and songs about Karen's hands. Strong, firm, but also soft, smooth, always there. She's going to draw pictures and make sculptures of hands. And maybe someone else also loves her very much, but they're at a time in their life when they need a shoulder to cry on. And so they're going to write poetry and songs and whatnot about how wonderful her shoulder is. Just broad enough for their head to be there, but soft, not bony. Right? And they're gonna do pictures and sculptures of shoulders. Now, we all understand we're loving the same woman. No problem. The problem becomes in our descendants. Now you fast forward thousands of years. My descendants think that Karen is eyes. Preeti's descendants think Karen is a hand. Someone else's descendants think Karen is shoulder. And now we fight and we kill each other. We hate each other. Because we've lost the perspective that we're talking about the same divine energy. I mean, one of the things every religion agrees on is God is infinite. I don't know of any religion that says God only exists in this box over here. That's not God. If God lives in a box, it's not God. God is infinite. So if God is infinite by nature, it means that God can be known in infinite ways. That God has manifested. Whether we believe in a form or not in a form, in multiple forms, in one form, whatever it may be. But that energy has an infinite number of possibilities. And so we worship the way that we connect to God. I'm an eye worshiper. Preeti's a hand worshiper, no problem. As long as we don't limit ourselves to thinking that that's all God is. And so, for you, I would say, try to think about God like that. That, okay, yeah, this is my way in. I mean, think about Ganga here. The point is to get in Ganga. Whether you go down our steps at Parmarth Niketan, or you go downriver a bit and you go in from Gita Bhavan's Ghat or Vanprast Ashram's Ghat, or you go upriver and you go in from the sandy beach at Ramjula, or you jump in from a rock up at Lakshmanjula. Doesn't matter. What matters is that you get in. Ganga's not giving extra blessings to people who get in one way versus the other way. She's not saying, oh, you're the one who did the triple flip off the rock. Okay, you get, the best blessings. It doesn't matter how you get in. So worship your own, love it, use your path. It's perfect for you. But recognize other people get in different ways. And that's also okay. And when you're with people who don't respect you, it really depends. It depends how important the relationship is to you. Whether it's really worth getting into it about. I mean, look, there's no way that everybody is going to like you. There's no way everyone's going to respect you. It's just part of the package deal of a life in which you actually know a lot of people. Inevitably, there will be people who don't respect you. Whether it's your religion, whether it's what you look like, whether it's what you do. I mean, we've got an innumerable number of reasons not to like someone if we don't want to. But don't let that determine your life. Somebody likes you, doesn't like you, respects you, doesn't respect you. That doesn't need to determine how you feel. So in general, you may not necessarily want to waste all of your time trying to get everyone to respect you. But if there are people you're close with, and you feel that there might actually be an educational possibility, a possibility of opening, then why don't you share with them? Share with them the idea that, you love God and they love God. And maybe you all could just agree to love God in different ways. But if they can't, don't blame them. My really good friend, my first year at Stanford, she lived down my dorm hall. She was a devout Christian. I come from a Jewish family, but I was not religious. She was very religious. And she used to try to convert me, to get me to come to Bible study and whatnot. Now, we were 18, 19. Religion was the farthest thing from my mind. It was my first year at college, right? I mean, it was all about work and school and parties and boys and whatnot. The last thing I was thinking about was Bible study or my religion or anybody else's religion. And I remember saying to her, Laura, just drop it. Let's just be friends. I won't talk to you about religion. You don't talk to me about religion. And let's just... And she said to me something that has stuck with me since then. She said, I talk to you about it because I love you. She said, if you were dying of cancer, and I were convinced that I had the cure to cancer, what kind of a friend would I be if I didn't try to force you to take the cure? And it stuck with me all these years because you realize, okay, well, they may not necessarily be trying to change you or not respecting you because they're awful or horrible people or narrow-minded people. But it may actually be something as simple as what my friend said to me. In her religion, they are taught, bring other people in. She was doing what she was told was the right thing to do. And so maybe you can just find it in your heart to have compassion and love and even respect for other people's love of their own religion, even if they don't necessarily respect you. And hopefully your respect of them will make them respect you. When we get treated with respect, we tend to respond with respect. So see whether you can be the one to open that up for them and create a container of love and respect. And it's important to talk about because in our world, there's way too much violence around religion. And if we don't become active in our acceptance and our embrace of others, then we become silent contributors to conflict and violence. So whatever your way may be, just make sure that you are living openness and respect and acceptance. And there was a question here. संदीप भैया, अच्छा कोई और पीछे है, हाँ दे दीजिए उनको.
Two-part question. First is the difference between spirituality and religion, and part two, the value of visiting pilgrimage places in terms of religion and spirituality.
So spirituality literally means of the spirit, pertaining to spirit. We've got two ways of looking at the world. The material way, which says, I am this body. Its size, its shape, its color. I am the physical matter of my body. And there's empty space. And then you are there, you are your body, the physical size, the physical shape, the matter. And then there's empty space. And you are your body, its size, its shape, its matter. And we're all individual material objects with empty space between us. That's the material way. The spiritual way says, I have a body, but ultimately I'm the spirit that runs through the body. You have a body, but ultimately you're the spirit that runs through it. You have a body, but ultimately you're the spirit that runs through it. And actually there's no place I end and you begin, because the same spirit that runs through me runs through you. So there is no empty space. There is spirit. And that's what spirituality means. It's a way of connecting to spirit. Now, ultimately, that's what religion should do for us. Ultimately, religion should be the way to connect with that divine spirit. Whether we say God, whether we say soul, whether we say spirit, whether we say love, whether we say divine energy. Ultimately, religion should be the way of understanding and connecting with that. There shouldn't be a distinction between religion and spirituality. The problem is that religion has gotten co-opted for things that have nothing to do with spirit. Religion has gotten co-opted for money, for power, for resources. And so what you end up with is a lot of people who say, well, I'm not religious, but I'm spiritual. And what it means is, I want to connect to spirit. But I don't want to be hijacked for someone else's power agenda. I don't want to be stuck in a box of dogma. I want to be expansive, not contracting. And all too frequently, religions have become things that cause us to contract. Us versus them, right versus wrong. But at the core, they really should be the same. So I always say that we need to take back religion. We shouldn't be content to just say, oh, if you want religion without the baggage, just be spiritual. As religious people, we need to take back religion and free it. Free it from power games and money games and too much contracting dogma, so that it actually can become that which connects people to spirit. And then the importance of pilgrimage places. So the places themselves have a lot of power. There are certain places on earth that just have sacred power. That's why people have been going there for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. But there's another component to it as well, which is the mental component. We know that our mindset is such a core aspect of the life that we create for ourselves, the world that we live in. And so if we are going for pilgrimage, going on yatra, as we say, there's a whole mindset around that. And the mindset of being on pilgrimage is very conducive to spiritual growth. So long before you actually get to the spot that is holy and an energetic vortex type of place, you're already growing spiritually. Because your mind knows, I'm on yatra. I'm on pilgrimage. But we can't keep going on pilgrimage all the time. And so the lesson about that is, how can we keep our mindset all the time as though I'm on pilgrimage? Daily life, you're driving to the grocery store. Make that your spiritual pilgrimage. I'm on yatra. Because when I get there, I'm going to have the opportunity to see the divine in the form of the person who checks me out at the cash register. Driving to work, no problem. I'm on pilgrimage. When I get there, I'm going to have the opportunity to see the divine in the guy who gives me a ticket when I enter the garage, or the person who runs the elevator, or my boss, or my colleagues, or my employees. See whether you can give yourself that mindset shift wherever you're going, so that life can become a pilgrimage. And it is. I mean, the divine is everywhere. So wherever we are, we should realize we are on pilgrimage to see the divine. Let us end with just a few minutes in meditation together, especially in this practice of mindfulness that we've been talking about. So just allow your eyes to close. And allow your attention, your focus, your awareness to pull inward. Just keep drawing it inward. And allow yourself to become aware of the very breath that's flowing through your body. Don't try to change it. Don't analyze it. Don't judge it. Just be aware. And as the breath moves through the body, notice whether there are places the breath seems to flow very easily in, and whether there are places where it seems a bit stuck. Again, don't judge, simply notice. The mind may wander. It may get distracted by a sound or a thought. But don't worry, just bring it back. Just gently keep bringing it back to the breath. Feel the awareness like a beautiful, soft, light blanket that's just slowly spreading, unfolding, and expanding throughout all of your being. Allow that awareness to just keep expanding. Can you feel the blood flowing through your veins? Just be aware. Can you feel the beat of the heart? Just be aware. Can you feel the internal, subtle musculature of the body ever so gently adjusting just to keep you sitting straight? Just notice it. But don't lose the breath. The blanket of awareness is just expanding and expanding. You're not judging or analyzing or changing. Just allowing the awareness to spread throughout the being. If the mind wanders, just bring it back. Ever so gently, bring the palms of your hands together at chest level and rub them gently against each other. Press the palms of your hands into your closed eyes. Slowly lower your hands and open your eyes. Have a beautiful rest of your evening. A beautiful morning and day to our family joining us from around the world. And I look so forward to being together with you all again tomorrow. And so much love to you.